Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. We're your hosts, Bull and P, and we got a lot of stuff to get to today. Obviously, basketball team is SEC champions. That was a big win last night. I love what the team did. We'll get into that. We're going to talk about baseball. We're going to talk about football. But before we get into anything, do us a huge favor, like and subscribe to the channel. Now, P, how you been doing, man? Like, we haven't talked, well, at least we haven't talked on air all week. But, I mean, a whole lot of stuff has been going on. But how's everything going with you?
Man, been busy, man. Been taking the young one out, getting him ready to go. You know, he's playing baseball, so working with him. And here's the deal, you know, he's coming and grabbing me, saying, "Hey, Dad, let's go up here to the parking lot, whatever. Let's get some work in." And he's been putting in, hours and hours. And you know, his coaching staff starting to, they're noticing he's been putting in the work. He's getting better, and just doing what I can with this family, man. Staying busy, working from home now. He's picked up a new job not too long ago, so. It's been busy around here for me.
Beautiful, beautiful. So the first thing that I want to talk about, before we get into everything else, okay, number one, Peyton Manning. We all know that he's got the Omaha Productions, and it sounds like he's been targeting Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. And I think what they're going to be doing is kind of like the Manning Monday Night Football cast thing that they do. They're going to call it the GOAT cast, or it's something like that, right? And they're hoping that they can get Belichick and Nick Saban to do that. But, P, what are your thoughts with what that would end up looking like?
That's going to be phenomenal, man. I mean, people will be able to watch that. They're going to learn so much about football, about how coaches look at the game, about just watching it a whole different way. I mean, that's going to be through the roof. So do you know when that's supposed to get rolling?
So I don't know if they've really talked to Belichick yet. I mean, obviously, Saban's already working for ESPN. So I don't know how that would work. I mean, I guess he would be able to do both. It sounds like the ESPN stuff is going to be mostly like College Game Day whenever it comes to Saban. But, yeah, I think that it would be just incredible if we could get a guy like Belichick and Saban talking about NFL football. Now, Saban, obviously, he does know NFL football, but it's just going to be interesting to, kind of hear what his thoughts are going to be because he's much more of a college guy. So I would love to hear what his take is on all of that. But, man, look, Peyton Manning, I mean, he's just doing huge things. Yeah. If he can close out on both of those guys, I mean, shoot, this Omaha thing could end up taking off and being, like the next ESPN. So,
well, heck, I'll tell you what, man, Peyton, everything he does is top notch. You know what I mean? I mean, if Peyton's name's on it, it's going to be the best of the best. So excited about that for him.
Absolutely. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about before we get into everything is Greg McElroy, who works at ESPN. I heard him, kind of coming out today talking about potential, college football season where it's very similar to what the NFL is. And he's saying, well, in the NFL, the, conference champions have to play the other conference champions. So he's pretty much saying, well, what we should do in college football is all of the Power 4 conference champions should have to play the other conference champions in that following season. And, he also just said that it would be, I think he said something like six games, and I guess it could be like in conference, or it's 6 conference games, and then you have like 3 out of conference games, but everything is pretty much Power 4. And he was saying that, like, if you end up at the bottom of your conference, then instead of having to play, some of the higher, I guess, seeded teams, you will be playing like Group of 5. But P, what are your thoughts about that sort of a model? And I don't know if I made that make sense, how he kind of said it.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting model. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously different than what we've kind of grown up watching college football. You already know as Tennessee fan, you're going to play your South Carolinas, your Kentuckys, your Missouris. But it sounds like with this model, they may do away with maybe a South Carolina and replace them for potentially like a conference. Maybe we play Ohio State now instead of playing South. So I don't know. It's going to be different. We're not going to be playing the same teams we used to playing, which I guess we're kind of already in that world now with the new pod system or whatever. But that's definitely an interesting concept. I would need to, I guess, kind of hear them kind of talk through it and really explain exactly how it would work. Because so you're saying, SEC conference champion, Big 10, Big 12, ACC, and then who else? Like those 4 teams will play each other? Okay, those 4 teams.
Right. So that would basically all of the conference champions would have to play each other at some point throughout the season. And
I wonder, so who makes up the rest of their schedule? I guess would they still play their conference? Okay.
Yeah, so that was one of the questions. I think he said it would be 6 in-conference games, but obviously, I mean, there's several issues with it because the conferences have, different The Big Ten has, I think, 18 teams. The SEC has 16. And I think that the Big 12 has 17. I mean, so that would make it weird because it's not an even number of teams inside of each conference. Yeah. The other thing that I would say to me that, I was like, this is not going to work. But, it brought up something very interesting. Was that number one? Okay, so the NFL can do that because they're trying to create parity in the league. Couple of things for me is that we know that, even if it's Power 4 conferences, those teams still ain't built. Like, it's not the same, it's not an even playing field, right? So, like Tennessee is going to have a lot more resources than what's a Big 12 team?
Baylor.
Yeah, Baylor, right? So, they're not playing
may not be the best, but yeah.
Well, yeah, no, we have way more resources than Baylor does. You know what I'm saying? So it's not even from that perspective. And also the NFL has something called the NFL draft where the worst teams get to go out and pick the best players. So I think that that's going to be a big, big issue if we were to try to implement that. And this is something that he threw out there, but that would be an issue because you can't go out and hand select whoever you want. So what's going to end up happening for me is that it's going to be the same 16 teams, right? Because he was talking about, the top 16 teams, they all have to play each other. There's going to be the same 16 teams every single season because the teams up under that can't compete. Now, they might have a better record, but their strength of schedule won't be as strong. So as far as them being able to get seeded higher in the playoffs, that won't work out well for them. And, if they do have to play up against any of these real big boy teams, all they're going to do is just get smacked over and over and over again. But this is where I was going with it, right, is that I think that at some point, because, we heard all the rumblings about there's some billionaires that want to try to, buy some college, some college teams. Like they want to have some ownership in these college teams. And it's really moving more towards the NFL model. But the big thing in the NFL is a draft. So do you think that college football would ever get some sort of a draft? Like, do you think that that's where we're going to end up going to in the next probably 4 or 5, 6 years?
Man, that's an interesting concept. I was just kind of thinking how that would work. I mean, it had to be a deal where maybe, I don't know if it would, maybe just like the transfer portal turns into a little bit of a draft maybe, and maybe, but then so many teams, how are you going to even do it? I guess you have to cut the playing field way down and say, hey, if you're the number one transfer portal player, you can only go to one of these 3 schools or something. I don't know how in the world they would do that, but I mean, there's a lot of issues with that model because then, if I'm at a school like Baylor and I squeak it out and I win the Big 12, okay, I'm a 1 or 2 loss Big 12 champion. Okay, now I'm rewarded by having a tougher schedule next year, and I may not even be able to make it because now I have to play off the wham 3 other teams that I'm probably going to lose to. And so now I'm 3 losses off the wham. I'm not going to make playoffs this year. The team that, was right up under me, now they're going to, I feel like it'd be a kind of a cycle like that, especially for those smaller conferences that can't really, they're not really going to compete with the Big Ten or the SEC really. So that's a lot of issues with that. But the draft, I don't know how they pull that off.
I don't know either, but if they were to do it, it would be with the model that I've said from Jump Street. Once I heard that the Big Ten and the SEC was working together, I said, man, look, they're going to end up being the AFC and the NFC, and they're going to make their own league. So I still think that it's headed in that direction. And it's kind of weird to me just listening to all these different analysts talking about this stuff because it's like, do y'all not kind of see what's happening here? Like, y'all keep on trying to throw, the Big 12 and the ACC into this, but they're not really part of this unless something happens where, they would come to the SEC and to the Big Ten and say, hey, listen, we just want to be a part of this whole deal. So y'all hand select the teams that y'all want to, keep from our conference. And, we'll just merge in with y'all. You know what I'm saying? That type of a deal, just so that they can have some semblance of, still being relevant. That's all that I could see. But at the end of the day, the NFL has 32 teams. I think that college is going to, or at least SEC, Big Ten, try to get somewhere around that 32 number, maybe a little bit more just because we all know that they're real greedy. But I think that is how things could end up working, where you could have something like an NFL draft, because then now you've got essentially, maybe I think that there's probably 32 teams that we could kind of say, hey, okay, like these guys are close enough within that same ballpark that it's sort of an even playing field, right? Yeah. Like we can now create some rules to start some parity and kind of keep things, rotating. I think that that's how it would have to go.
So
go ahead.
And so in that model, would with the SEC and Big Ten, would they lose some teams like you kicking out Vandy and maybe some lower tier type teams, for maybe you go get Clemson, Florida State, Miami, whoever you want from the Big 12, whatever, Utah, and you kind of get rid of some of those lower half of each conference?
I think so. I mean, that's the way that I see it going. Now, that might be a little bit further on down the line. There's a lot of things. Obviously, there's a whole lot of changes happening here rapidly, pretty much instantly. But yeah, I would say within the next 5 to probably 6, 7 years, I think that is what's going to happen. If you don't have a big boy, product of a school, then you're going to be excluded from these big boy conferences, even if you've kind of been in that conference for a long time. Now, Vanderbilt does have some deep pockets, but, I don't know. Like that's the interesting part of it is I don't know. I think that the SEC, for the most part, you might be able to kind of keep the, main core teams in there. But somebody probably will have to go to make some room for, like you said, P, Clemson, Florida State. And I don't know, you might want to maybe throw like a North Carolina in there. We all know that Notre Dame is probably going on to the Big Ten. So
I think that's a really interesting piece is what criteria would they base it off of. And maybe they do something where they look at maybe like a 4-year kind of data point and say, you have to make the playoffs maybe within this 4 years, especially with being 12 teams. If you don't make the playoffs within this 4 years, you're out. Or I don't know how they would do it. You have to have a certain amount of money, a certain amount of wins over the last 5 years, whatever. I don't know how they would do it. And then is it possible that it could be a rotating deal where, hey, if you're not winning a certain amount and another team is, maybe we could swap you guys? I mean, it's a lot of variables, things to consider as we kind of move forward here.
Absolutely. It's a whole lot of interesting stuff, but we will talk about it some more probably, within the next couple of weeks, because I feel like some more news will be coming out. All right, but now we're about to switch gears to our volunteers. Starting off with the baseball team, we'll touch on this quickly. Right now, we're 13-1, I believe. We had a big game versus Kansas State where we won 15-5. And, Dean Curley, who is a true freshman, he had 3 homers in this game. He almost had 4, but he set a school record with freshman home runs in a single game. And, I listened to him talk some, and he was like, yeah, man, I've never hit 3 homers in a game, but that's insane. Okay. Number one, like that's crazy, but we hit a lot of bombs in that game. And P, like just looking at them, just watching our guys out there running around, they're so well built, dude. Like they look like a football team. Yeah. I mean, everybody's jacked. I don't know who their, strength guy is, but he's doing a phenomenal job. Yeah.
Well, heck, I'll tell you what. When I was in Vandy, I was good friends with a guy on the baseball team, and he was basically. And one day he had a guy from the MLBs had come to visit him. I guess they kind of knew each other from back in the day, and he was like, "Man, all we do in baseball is we're eating steaks, we're eating good, and we're lifting. Like that's why we're all kind of like jacked like that. They're not doing cardio conditioning; they're freaking lifting and eating. That's all they got to do."
Yeah, man. But our guys actually look like. They look like they could play football. You know what I'm saying? And I definitely get what you're saying. But our team just looks different. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's kind of like how Alabama used to be back in the day, right? Like, you could tell it was like, man, they all look like NFL players. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, they look like the guys on the, on the video game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how our team looks. So I'm just excited for that. But as far as home runs go, because I wanted to touch on this. Now, I made these notes, P, like a couple of days ago. So it's going to be a little bit outdated with some of this stuff. But as far as number one, man, Dean Curley, he has 8 hits, or he had 8 hits whenever I made these notes throughout the season. 6 of them have been homers. So that's huge. And then as far as home runs for the entire team, Billy Amick has 8. Dean Curley is number 2 with 6. And then we've got Tiers. He has 4. And Blake Burke, he has 4 as well. So, we've got a lot of guys who can go deep. The offense looks really good. I haven't been able to watch a full game yet to know what the pitching looks like. But P, have you gotten a chance to watch any of our guys?
Yeah, man. Yeah, that Dean Curley, he's kind of been popping onto the scene here lately, a true freshman. He's a stud wearing that 2-3. You love to see it. But Billy Amick, or as they call him, Big Billy Barrels. It seems like every time I happen to glance at a game and he's up to bat, it's a home run or he's hitting the fence on a freaking rope. Like he's the truth, man. And I'm not sure. I think he may have been a transfer, I believe, coming in this season.
I'm not sure.
This is his first year with us, but he's a real dude. We got a lot of power throughout that whole lineup. Like I said, the pitching, we have a couple of guys that good starters, but we have to continue to develop. I think that's when you talk about getting to Omaha and winning the whole deal. the pitching is what does it. You know, we think about, was it last year, the year before? Notre Dame brings in that true freshman, and we freaking couldn't hit the guy, and he shut us out for like 5 innings. You know, we didn't get any hits off of him once he came in. If you have elite pitching throughout your entire kind of bullpen, that's the difference. So I'm looking for the pitching team to take that next step. But as far as the offense, man, the bats are on fire right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm super proud of that. And then also, man, we're doing a really good job of identifying talent. So in the 2000 and I guess it would be the 2024 class, we've got 8 players already in the top 100. And I mean, we know a guy coming up in the 2028 class. He's one of the top players in that class. He's 6'3", 6'4", about 205. He's already throwing like around low 90s. So I don't know where he's going to end up going, but I think Tennessee is one of his top schools. So I just think that, man, Coach Tony V, he's doing his thing. And I'm excited just to be able to keep on watching these guys all the way throughout. I also heard that the softball team had a big win. I think it was last night versus somebody. It was like a top 10 team. So, man, I mean, it's a great time to be a Tennessee Vol because everybody's hitting on all cylinders. But we have to move on because we have to talk about our basketball team winning the SEC championship last night versus South Carolina. Oh, man, I mean, going to South Carolina, I think that was a huge game. I'm going to pull these stats up for y'all so that we can just talk about it. And, P, you can chime in wherever you want. We won the game 66-59. I mean, there were some things that I liked. There were some things that I didn't necessarily like. But, P, for me right now, I would say that we look like we are hitting that stride at the right time like we talked about. But what's your thoughts?
Man, it feels good to get that sweet revenge on those guys after they beat us a few weeks ago. It's always good to beat South Carolina. You know, they've turned to a quiet little rivalry here in football and basketball, probably baseball too. So it also was good to beat them. Don Connect doing what he always does, putting up points, putting the team on his back. But for me, man, it was the defense. The defense played lights out. Smothering the ball, contesting shots at the rim. Coach Barnes has his team playing high level ball right now, and something you hear a lot. You listen to VolQuest. These guys, they talk about how veteran this team is. And I think that really comes into play when you talk about hitting that stride into March. Because, I mean, you and I, we never really played basketball growing up, right? So that's something I always find fascinating is the psyche of these basketball guys. How is it that, a 16-seed team, for example, can go out there and beat a 1 seed on any given night? And I think it has a lot to do with the psyche. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what it is. How can the entire team shot be off on the same night? You know what I mean? Like, how can nobody get to the basket, create shots? So, I'm saying that to say that's my only concern for this team as we move into March is, can we avoid having that lull where Don Connect's not on? We don't get anything from Jordan James. We don't get anything from Ziegler. Best could be like, we've got to have that mental psyche kind of to a point where we can overcome those types of games because we're going to have at least 1 or 2 games where Connect's not on, right? So who's going to step up? That's the big thing. So, but man, very excited about this team getting another SEC championship win. I think that's 3 for Rick Barnes since he's been here. So just keep it rolling, man. And can we finally pull it off in March is the big have answered.
For sure. So we're also going to get into that. We're going to take a look at the at that bracketology. But there are a couple of points that you made, P, that I want to point out. Whenever you look at our field goal percentage from last night, 35.7%, that's just not good enough to me. Okay, now we are winning these games. We're winning on the road, and I'm not here to be nitpicking or nothing like that. I'm not, trying to be negative whenever I'm saying this, but this is just, for me personally, what I'm looking for, going into the tournament. I think we've got to find a way to score at a higher clip than that. Okay, like that just has to happen. Now, we do play great defense, so we can keep some teams, from scoring as many points as they probably normally would. Like, we're going to hold them probably under what their average is, but we'll see coming up here on Saturday versus the Kentucky Wildcats. Can we continue to play this type of defense, and can we, put up a better, field goal percentage? That's going to be a huge thing for me. Our bigs, are going to have to continue to be dominant down in the paint. We saw Joseph Adu do his thing. And I'm not even sure if that's what his first name is, but, we saw him going out there doing this thing. He had 14 points, but I still want him to, just continue to kind of be more of a dog, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you want to see a little bit more dog from him. And then, as we're, kind of going down, DK, right? He shot 9 for 23. I do like the fact that he's not going to stop shooting. We talked about we need some other players to step up and do that as well, but he ends up with 26 points. So I think that he did well there. Also, he's got to step his defense up. It's starting to me, kind of seems like it's trending a little bit worse than how he started off, or, I feel like he kind of hit his stride. He kind of hit his peak, and now he's kind of coming back down some. So we got to get him to tighten his defense up a taste, as far as I'm concerned. Now, Ziegler, okay, he's been playing well. He's been playing with a whole lot of confidence. He's not turning the ball over as much, but he's moving it around. He's getting people involved. He's doing what he's supposed to do. Santi, he's doing a great job still, on defense, getting steals. And he does a good job of just kind of being like that role player. He didn't take as many shots last night, but he also wasn't really open that many times last night. So I'm not too disappointed in that. I still feel like he has confidence, and that's the biggest thing. Now for James, right? This is a guy who, I think that he's been playing really well. He seems like he's playing with a lot of confidence. Only 6 points last night, but he's still going out and getting rebounds. And then, as far as our bench players and role guys, I feel like they kind of are doing what they have been doing. And, overall, my whole point in saying all of this is I think that we are in a good position, to be able to go into the tournament. I think that we're kind of peaking at the right times. But I had to, just throw out just a couple of things that I'm looking for, because it's never perfect, right? Like we can never just get satisfied. Now, P, what are your thoughts with the SEC tournament coming up? I think it starts March the 13th. But what are your thoughts with that? Like, do you care if we end up winning that, or, is it something else? Yeah. The other part of it, too, is right now, we are slotted to be the number 1 seed in the West. And I think that that's the best place for us to be. But we would probably have to go pretty far in the SEC tournament for that to actually, happen. But what are your thoughts?
Well, it was actually speaking with our dad about that last night, and he's kind of the thought, and he kind of convinced me the same thing. Like the SEC tournament is not a huge deal. I think, like what you said, it is important for seeding, but it's in terms of us already having our spot solidified in the tournament. Do we need to maybe rest a little bit, get these guys back to full strength? It's not as huge of a deal. Like, do we want to try to stay hot through the tournament? Or do we maybe cool off a little bit so we can kind of get back hot again heading into the actual, March Madness, the real tournament, right? So I don't know. That's the SEC tournament. I mean, it's cool if we, can stay hot, but it's not a huge deal. We already got the SEC title. So, we don't have to go out here and try to break our necks necessarily to get this thing done, because at the end of the day, the tournament is where we really want to get to. When you look at the, being number 1 in the West, I mean, I really like that draw. I mean, I don't really see any teams there that scare you out of the West. I mean, I watched who was it? Was it BYU? I'm sorry. I watched Arizona play last night.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe not before. And, I mean, heck, they ain't nobody. And they're number 2 seed. So I feel pretty good about that draw if we can get it.
I do too. Yeah, I think that would be the best place for us to be, because that looks like that's the easiest road to the Final Four for us. I don't see a whole lot of dominant big men. Now, I mean, I could be off, and it's something else too. I don't believe in those Big 12 teams. I got to see Texas versus, I think, Texas Tech or something. I mean, I feel like SEC play is on such a different level than what they're doing. I think I've seen Arizona play a little bit. I don't know what they would have that might kind of scare you. I don't know about Clemson. Iowa State's a team that, people are saying, well, Houston's better than them. I listened to some guys talking about that last night. But I haven't seen a whole lot of these teams play, honestly. But from what I have seen, I love Tennessee's chances, especially if we can end up here. So whereas we came into this whole thing saying, and I'm going to scroll this up too, so that y'all can kind of see what the rest of it looks like, just in case. All right, there we go. Y'all can see it all right there. But my biggest thing, right, has been, okay, at some point, because we know basketball teams and, basketball in general, it's kind of streaky, kind of similar to, like baseball. But I was like, okay, well, we're doing good. We're kind of hitting that stride going into the tournament. But you might want to go on ahead and lose at some point so that you can rest and, so that you kind of get that hunger back, you kind of get that edge back. So I don't know, though. I think that it would probably be worth it for us to maybe win the SEC tournament if that means we end up getting that number 1 seed in the West. Now, I don't know if it's going to be possible for us to, maybe lose the first game or two in the SEC tournament and still get that number 1 seed in the West. I don't know how all that works out, but that to me, that would be best case. So that we've got the easiest path. We can kind of rest up and, we can kind of work on the little things that we need to work on as a team. All right, so let's go ahead and switch gears to football. This is what probably most of y'all have been waiting on. And we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, we're getting into spring. Spring practice is going to be big, but this is also a really big time because in the spring, the coaches will have several of their top prospects up on campus, to take in the orange and white game. And then after that, the coaches are going to be out on the road trying to see, what players do they want to offer, for the end of this cycle and then for the next couple of years cycles as well. But heading into the summertime, okay, we're seeing the players are starting to want to commit more and more in the summer. So from the spring to the summer window, it's huge. And we've got a big one coming up with Ethan Utley, who is an in-state player. He's an in-state defensive lineman from Ainsworth High School in Nashville, Tennessee. Let's pull up his video.
Defensive lineman out of Nashville, Tennessee. Ethan Utley had over 40 offers. He plans to make a decision prior to those official visits this summer.
I have Ethan Utley, and I'm committed to.
All right, so he's going to be choosing his school on March the 28th. Now, P, whenever you kind of saw him scrolling through his phone, the last two schools that showed up was Tennessee and Texas. And the insiders are saying that right now it is between us and Texas to land Ethan Utley. That would be a big problem if Texas can come into our own backyard and get a guy that's at a position of extreme need for us because he can play defensive tackle. That's probably what he's going to end up at in college. And we've also heard that Michigan kind of has like an outside chance. But P, what do you think about Ethan Utley? Have you heard anything outside of what I've been hearing as far as where he's thinking about going to school at?
No, I haven't really heard anything. I've just always felt like he was a Tennessee lean just for a while now. It just seems like he loves Tennessee. I think he's visited us several times. It just seems like he's at home. He's comfortable with them. I believe Coach Gardner, I think, has a relationship. I guess he knows his mom, I think it was, something like that. So, it just seems like a place where he fits in well. He's going to be comfortable there. His family will be comfortable there, not too far from home, in-state kid. I just think he's Tennessee lean unless we do something to kind of, below it. I think he'll be committing to us on 28th.
Yeah, hopefully so. And then the other part of this is, we keep on talking about Texas, okay? Everyone's talking about, is Georgia going to take Alabama's place, as the dominant force in the SEC? But we've been saying it from Jump Street that Texas is the team that we really need to be watching out for, okay? Like, that's the team that, at least for me, I'm looking past a whole lot of these other SEC teams because I'm looking at, national title prominence, and I'm just looking at the top of the SEC. And to me, Texas is a problem. So we definitely need to win this one, not just for this season, but for the future of how things could be trending. We've got to try to stop Texas from coming into our backyard and stealing players. But there is somebody else that I wanted to bring up, P. And this guy, it sounds like he really likes Tennessee, okay? And he's another position of need for us. And his name, I don't want to get it wrong, but I think that he goes by Logan Hayward. Let me see. I have something here in my notes. I think that he has a nickname. I didn't put it in my notes, but Logan Hayward, he is a four-star athlete. He's listed as a safety right here on 24/7 Sports. 6'1", 200 pounds, 210 pounds. He's a dog. He's a beast. We're going to pull his huddle up right here in just a second. He can do it all. So what I liked from the article that Matt Ray wrote on him was that he's loved Tennessee. Okay, he got an offer on his first visit here at Tennessee. He said he loves our coaching staff. Tennessee wants for him to play defense, either safety or linebacker. And with that in mind, you see a player like this that can move like that, playing linebacker, you could tell that he could get up to about 235, 240 pounds. If he's 200, 210 pounds on that film, and he's going to be a serious problem at linebacker. He's going to be one of the best in the entire country at backer. He's a 5-star if you put him there. But P, just in looking at his film, I want to know what you think. But he is, he said he's got a couple of visits set up for the summer. He's got USC June the 7th. He's got Alabama June the 14th. And then he's going to be visiting us last on June the 21st. And it sounds like he wants to make his decision after he visits Tennessee officially. But he's leaning towards Tennessee pretty heavily. But what do you think about him just in watching his film?
Gotta have him, gotta have him. He's one of those guys, plug and play guy. What do you want him, coach? Safety, backer, star. can do it all for you. Can also flip over to the offensive side of the ball. I mean, big kid, looks big and strong out there. Looks like he's probably the biggest kid on the field that's not a lineman. I mean, looks big, very smooth, fluid athlete, prototypical 5-star. I mean, that's what he is. When you look at him, prototypical 5-star, fluid hips, fluid feet, smooth, scoring touchdowns, making plays, and doing it with flair, swag, and pizzazz. I mean, he's the total package. And, the fact that he's leaning towards Tennessee from what you're hearing, that's huge, man. We got to close the deal on this guy, especially anytime you go into Georgia, the state of Georgia, and you get a big-time prospect like this. That's a reason to celebrate. And, man, this would be another home run hit right here. Where do you play him? Well, coach, wherever you need him, so got to get this guy.
Yeah. Oh, man, I think that you said it all right there. He is the truth. And so he's playing at what's the name of his high school again? It's Toombs County High School. Okay. I've never heard of it. It's down in South Georgia. It's in a little town called Lyons. And they're down there playing AA ball. So, it's not the higher classifications that we see most of the time whenever we're watching Georgia players play. And that's why he looks so big. But I also think that maybe he could be, a little bit taller than what he's listed at. He's listed at 6'1". There's a possibility that he's about 6'3". But yeah, I mean, I think that he could even be an edge rusher. He just looks like a very, very special talent. No one's really talking about him. But yeah, that's a guy.
When you say that, he might be taller. You know who I instantly think about?
Who's that?
You talk about a guy who plays defense and offense, does it all. Have you seen Sean Taylor's high school film?
Oh yeah. Oh man, that's a great point.
He might even been better at running back than he was at safety, which says a ton. So, I mean, heck, not necessarily saying that's what this guy is, but man, wouldn't that be something we can land a Sean Taylor-esque guy?
Wow, I mean, that would be just ridiculous. And actually, he's got a lot of that South Florida to his game. I mean, he's that type of an athlete. You know what I'm saying? Like, whenever we talk about South Florida versus Georgia, those are the types of athletes I'm like, man, like every single team's got one of these. Like Georgia, we've got a whole lot of good players, but that right there, that's different. That's special. And, I'm going to be watching him very closely. I think he's already one of my favorite players in the 2025 class. But a couple other things have come out, before we get into the spring practice talk that I wanted to talk to you about, P. And that is that college football is now talking about using the headsets. So do you think this is something that Tennessee would use on offense? Because we didn't use it last year. No SEC team used this in bowl games last season. So do you think that this is something that we would want to use on offense? Is there a way that this can help us?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it would work with the tempo. I think everyone has to look to the sideline anyway to get the call. So I think we may continue to do that. I don't really see Heupel implementing that. But I do think it will be a huge advantage for other teams when you talk about some of these quarterbacks, maybe inexperienced, coming to the line of scrimmage. The coach can be in your headset, say, hey, watch the safety. He's blitzing here. And, can kind of get these guys. It's almost, to me, I almost don't like it because I think it kind of gives these guys an unfair advantage. I guess unfair. It's not unfair if everybody can do it, but I kind of like throwing these guys out there and, hey, coach ain't out there with you. You got to figure it out on your own. So I kind of don't like the change, but I don't see Tennessee making much use of it, at least not on offense.
Yeah, well, I mean, shoot, the NFL players do it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's another thing, we talked about it earlier in this video, that everything really is moving towards what the NFL model looks like. And I think that it's really long overdue. The rumors are that college coaches didn't want to implement this because they steal signs, like they steal signals. And we talked about that, whenever the whole, Stallions thing with Michigan was happening, we're like, this is not a big deal. I mean, this is something that it's your fault if teams can steal your signs and your signals, which is another part of the reason that I brought this up, because it's also rumored that Coach Heupel, let Michigan's people steal his signs and signals, and it worked for South Carolina in 2022, and that really derailed our entire season. So I think that Coach Heupel needs to try to find a way to use this, he needs to use it, to give us some sort of an edge. Even if that just means, hey, you know what, we're going to talk to Nico, because you can talk to him up until, I think, 15 seconds in a play clock. And since we like to run that tempo, I mean, we should have plenty of time. But you can kind of tell Nico, hey, look, this is what we're seeing. This is where the read should go. And I think that if nothing else, that would at least help us out. But Pete, to your point, though, about not using it so much on offense, this is huge for our defense. I mean, I think this is huge because now we talk a lot about having to, or, wanting to put these younger players in, and you can put them out there. You can trust them more because you can talk to, is it one or is it two players on defense?
I think it's one player.
It's just going to be one. Okay. All right, so I don't know why I thought I had read something that you can have two, and people were saying that, or at least in the bowl games, it sounds like it was a linebacker and it was a safety that had the headsets, but that would be huge if you could do that. But
I mean, and that's a good point because maybe because I mean everybody would assume Keenan Peely would have the headset, but heck, maybe you give it to a younger guy and say, so you can talk directly to him and tell him exactly what he's going to be doing on the play, and maybe that's a way to get guys in the field earlier. I don't know. That's an interesting thought. But yeah, I mean, I think defense will definitely use it there. Get the call in, we can relay it, and then at the last second, if the coach wants to change it, now he doesn't have to get everybody's attention. He can just, give it to Peely or whoever and say, hey, check, and Peely can, relay the signal and all that. So I think it'll be huge for us on defense for sure moving forward. But the offensive side, I just don't see how it's going to work with the tempo. I don't know. Unless you're going to give Nico, I don't know. But
it will be really hard because what it looks like, we've got those 3 or 4 people over there signaling in, and I know that maybe 1 or 2 of those might just be like dummy signals, but I think that the signals, there might be like a signal for like the wide receivers, and then there's something else for the quarterback. I don't know how that part of it works, but I think that it would mess with our tempo, and it also would help, I think, defenses versus our offense, because a lot of what our offense does is predicated on moving fast and making the defense have to show what they're in because they can't change, right? So it would still kind of, I don't know, because we go so fast that maybe it would still take the coach's time to get the call in, and then whoever gets that call in still has to tell everyone else, hey, this is what the call is. So maybe it won't hurt us as much. But what do you think about that? Like, do you think that hurts our offense?
I was thinking it would, but kind of as you were talking through it, you kind of changed my mind because, they do have to relay the call. And like you said, we go so fast, we're snapping the ball with like 30 seconds left on the play clock. So if the coach is trying to tell his guys, hey, he's about to do this, the ball's being snapped. And so when this guy's trying to relay it, we've already snapped the ball. That may even make it harder for them and put them even more out of position. So could even work in our favor, actually.
Yeah, for sure. So with all that being said, I want to go ahead and move into spring ball because we talked about this some on the channel, P, but you have not put your thoughts into it. But who are you most looking forward to seeing in spring? Again, y'all, the practice starts on March the 18th.
Man, there's a lot of guys I'm looking forward to seeing. I want to see a lot of those freshmen. I'm not sure. I don't think Jordan Ross is there. He's not there yet, is he?
No, I don't think he comes in until summer.
Well, I guess, the guys that are currently there, probably the biggest guy for me is Tyree Weatherspoon. I want to see, is he who we think he is? Is he, talk about Madden ratings or whatever, is he a 90 overall? Like we kind of expect him to be coming in day one. I think he has a chance to be that. I want to see these transfer guys, man. I want to see Jacoby Thomas. I want to see, McCoy at corner. And, I want to see the guy from Temple too, McMurray. I want to see all those guys. I want to see Blue Card. There's so many guys I want to see. I just hope that, like, seriously, I want to see all these guys. And I just hope that they give us some good clips, spring ball. But I also want to continue to – I want to see how are these coaches, the new guys, Inge and Darrell Sims, how are they coaching these guys? I want to hear kind of feedback from the players in terms of, like, how are they taking to the coach and how they like these guys, that whole deal. And, I just want to see what this team looks like, man, because I expect this team to look, as always, perfect. Like I have in my head the image of what I expect to see, and I want to see that's what I think, man. I want to see the linemen. There's so many people I want to see. So, can't name one person.
No, I think that we probably all feel the exact same way. Obviously, left guard, that's a big position of need right now for us. I think we've got some people who are able-bodied, guards, but Will left guard be that one position like P, you just talked about, with the ratings? If we're, at about like a 95 at left tackle, if we're averaging anywhere from 90 to about like a 96 or 97 on the offensive line, is that left guard going to be that one guy that's, like an 80 or like a 79? Like, you see what I'm saying? That is the part that we've got to get figured out. And I'm hoping that a guy like Aiden Bustle, he was one of my favorite players. He still is, okay? And I could probably say that about just about everybody because I love the entire team. But Aiden Bustle, man, I'm so excited about what I feel like he's going to be bringing. And in spring, we probably won't get to see a whole lot of the offensive linemen going to work outside of, I think that they're going to have what, P? Is it one scrimmage and then, or is it 2 scrimmages and then they end up with the orange and white game?
Yeah, I want to say it's 2 or 3 scrimmages.
Okay.
Yeah. So, hopefully, man, I I just wish we could get up there to practice and see this, see it for ourselves. Because I want to see what type of pop these guys give him. Because, like I said, man, Aiden Bustle, we're both very high on him. Ever since we've seen a couple clips of him kind of standing around in t-shirt and shorts, we said, man, this guy. And, yes, I think he has a chance, man. He's probably the one guy I don't feel like anybody really talks enough about besides us on this channel. As a guy that could, he could insert himself as a freaking household name, as a guy that, a lot of fans grow to know who this guy really is. And he could be starting to left guard position, I think, by the start of the season. He has every shot to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. But, Jackson Lampley's not going to go down lightly. And, I love Jackson Lampley, too. He's very passionate about Tennessee football. He's a guy who's already started talking about coaching. So sounds like he's going to, want to come back and kind of, keep on helping us out. And, I think that's huge, right? You can't quantify how much that means to have guys with that type of passion for your program being out there on the field. We all know that football, it's a very passionate game. And a lot of times it can make or break players. But, that to me, that's the most interesting battle. That's the most interesting matchup, because outside of that, I think that we're so deep. And, I don't want to boost us up too much, but I just feel like we've got so much talent everywhere else that it really doesn't matter who gets thrown in there. It doesn't really matter, how it all ends up playing out too much, because we're going to be fine. But left guard, that's the biggest one to watch.
How do you feel about tight end? I'm kind of interested to see Ethan Davis and Holden Stays.
That's going to be another huge one. Yeah. I don't know how the coaches are going to – I don't know how they're going to pick, between those two. Because as I said in the video this past week, I feel like Ethan Davis, even though I think that they're both going to be good at, running routes, catching the ball, but also blocking. I think that Ethan Davis gives you an edge as far as a, pass catching tight end, and Holden Stays is going to give you an edge from a blocking perspective. So I don't know. I like you don't want to not play Ethan Davis because he's kind of like waited his turn, even though, he's only a sophomore, but I still feel like he could have played some last year. That's just how I feel. I feel like he's anxious to get out on the field. So if it was me, I would start Ethan Davis, and I would try to run a lot of two tight end sets. I would do that. I'd go empty. I'd just get creative, like do something different. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can do whatever you want, because you've got a roster full of so much talent. But that's probably position battle number 2 for me. That's the most interesting. What do you think about Star though? Because stars, we talk about Jordan Thomas. We talk about like Boo Carter. There's a lot of people who could play there. Christian Charles. Is he going to be playing star? Is he going back to safety?
I'll see about him.
Yeah.
That's a deal. Maybe Coach Inge coming in, maybe he brings a different energy to that room or to that side of the ball where they're willing to give other guys a chance. Or maybe since we don't have Tank McCullough and some of these older guys, maybe by default we're going to give our guys a chance. But I just feel like Willie Martinez, Tim Banks, that secondary, they're going to play the older guys. They're going to play the same, 4 or 5 guys. So I think star is going to be Jordan Thomas until he goes out there and shows that he can do it. That's what I think. But I think that is an interesting position battle, because we do have several guys, like the guys coming in, Jalen Murray from Temple. Freaking Jamard McCoy even, do you like him inside? Do you like Jacoby Thomas at that position? Do you like I said, Boo Carter? Do you like a Jordan Matthews? We have so many different guys. Christian Charles, like you just said, Christian Harrison, the guy. So there's so many different guys. And again, just like the offense side of the ball with the receivers, like, what are we going to do to get these guys on the field? Are we going to rotate and give these guys a chance? But I do think that star position, that is an interesting battle, because Jordan Thomas wasn't great there last year. He wasn't terrible, didn't have a ton of reps, but we definitely can get better at that position. So that's going to be an interesting battle. But I like Jordan Thomas to kind of win that battle, just because of his experience and the staff is going who they're comfortable with usually. So.
Yeah, well, I can also tell you this. I'm hoping that the staff will just play the best players. Okay, like that. We've got to start doing that. We've got to start getting into that habit of. Obviously, as far as the people who came back that are super seniors, you kind of got to play them, but at the same time, you kind of don't. So like, play the best players. That's what I'm hoping that the staff does, and whoever doesn't do it, in my opinion, needs to go. Because it's too critical right now. I think that the competition is too high. The stakes are too high with the way that everything is trending with the transfer portal, with salaries are coming. It's a lot of stuff going on. So we've got to play the best guys. We've got to show and prove that we will play the best guys regardless of class. so that we can continue to get in the Jimmys and Joes, and so that they can execute the X's and O's. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be shocked if we don't lose anybody from that secondary after spring ball. I mean,
you know what? I actually feel pretty solid about that secondary, unless Thornton isn't starting. I think that if Thornton ain't starting, I could see him leaving. But outside of that, I feel pretty good.
I can see John Slaughter leaving. If
he's
not starting, that's the thing. I mean, somebody's going to be left out. You think about it. Christian Harrison, he's kind of down. I think he's kind of down, even though he was his next guy off the bench in the bowl game. Yeah. But I got feeling he might go, or if Jordan Matthews isn't playing, Christian Conyers. I just don't know. These guys are good enough to play. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think they might try to get out of here.
No, those are excellent points. But you know what? I guess that's really why, if anybody needs to be rotating a lot, it's daggone Willie Martinez. Like, dude, this ain't the 90s. It's not the early 2000s no more. You've got to get out of that mindset. You've got to start doing what it takes to win. Rotate these young guys into the game. Just do it. And you need to be able to coach them up enough that you feel comfortable for them to go out there, because now we know for sure that we've got a bunch of secondary pieces that can play. So if they're not out there, it's not on them, it's on you, coach. And I'm going to stand on top of the highest mountain that I can find, and I'm going to scream at the top of my lungs and say, get Willie Martinez out of here, because it's going to cost us championships playing this old school, we're going to play the oldest guys first crap. Put the best players in the game, coach, period. But yeah, so hopefully we can, find a way to get these guys rotated in. Now, you had also brought up wide receiver. I think that's going to be, that's another place where you've got to rotate a lot at. Dante Thornton versus Chris Brazzell is a huge matchup, because I think that they're going to be playing in the same spot. But who do you think is going to end up winning that one out?
Man, I got my money on Brazzell. Just because, we like what he shows on film. We like what we saw from Dante Thornton in the limited action on film coming into Tennessee from 2022. But it's packed football, wasn't as many reps. So I like Brazzell, man. I just think they're very similar, 6'5". I think Dante Thornton's probably a little thicker, and he does have the experience in the system as well. So it's gonna be an interesting battle. And that potentially another guy that could potentially hit the portal again if he doesn't win that starting job, and Dante Thornton or even Chris Brazzell coming in here in his first season. That's nobody's talking about it, but that's another potential.
Yeah, that could happen. And, the last thing that you want to see happen is anybody from our offense, especially wide receivers, transferring out. Well, I guess they couldn't transfer out at the spring and go to Georgia. But you don't want to lose anybody on the offense to Georgia, because they're just so daggum low down that they would target somebody from our offense just to try to get some of those trade secrets. So, I would be careful with that. But to me, that's a huge battle. And whenever I was just kind of going through all of the battles, I was like, okay, Mike Matthews, he could play where Brew plays. He could play where Squirrel plays. Or, he could play, where we've seen other guys playing. He could play at that third wideout spot. Yeah. And I don't know where he's going to fit into the whole equation, but he has to play.
He'd be a more talented, gifted Ramel Keaton. Imagine Ramel Keaton, but Jordan Matthews instead. Come on. Mike Matthews.
I know exactly what you was talking about. Yeah. But, dude, I think that he has to play. Braylon Staley has to play. I want to see Boo Carter used on offense. I know he's going to be utilized on special teams. That's going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out, and, what we hear about how he's looking at special teams. Is he making people miss out in the open field the way that he did in high school? I believe that he will. I think that he's got a much higher ceiling on offense than he does on defense, but he can do it both. So, there's a whole lot of rotation to go around. And we also talked about, is Coach Sims going to like Dylan Sampson as a starter, or is it going to be Cam Seldon? Or, once Peyton Lewis is healthy and he can start to run around with these guys, does he like him? Is it Bishop? Is it Keith? We don't know for sure. So I think that's another pretty interesting one.
It's so many things. But I just touching real quick back on the receivers. I think there's that's the kind of the biggest bang, like boom or bust room. I think it's loaded with potential. Like the potential is through the roof. You know what I mean? Like that's potential, like 99 overall group, in my opinion. Yeah. But who do you have that's coming back with experience? You have Squirrel White, who we know we can get better there, but he was our best guy last year. Brew McCoy, come back off a pretty significant injury. Will he be the same? Okay. Dante Thornton, he's got to show us more than he did last season. We're expecting big things. Chris Brazzell, like we talked about before, I think when he played Ole Miss last year, I don't think he had a single catch. Can't do it in the SEC. We still got to see it. And then behind that, I mean, it's like guys like Chaz Memrock, Caleb Webb, who didn't see a ton of. It's Mike Matthews, Brendan Staley, who are true freshmen. It's Nathan Laycock, who we didn't see at all, not even in garbage time, really. So, I mean, again, could be arguably the best receiving room in the entire country, but also a lot of improving there. So that's a very interesting room. But, as far as Coach Durrell, the running backs, we'll see. I love what he said in his kind of introductory press conference, talking about how, pads +2. And what he said, hey, there's going to be times when everybody knows you're going to run the ball. Yeah. I don't care about that. Go put your face in there and get pads +2. And when he said that, that's when he really won me over. I said, okay, he's coming here with the right mentality, getting his guys to play the right way. We used to say this all the time when we coaching our young guys. And heck, we'd be scrimmaging the older teams or whatever in our park, and we'd say, hey, the play's coming right here, try and stop it. Yeah. And our guys, we expect the guys to go make that play, to still get those yardage. So I think the fact that he has that mentality, man, I feel good about the room. Want to see Khalifa Keith take major steps from we saw last season. I think he will, right? I mean, we didn't see a ton of him, but this guy,
Yeah, no.
6 feet, was he 6 feet 230? I mean, how big is he?
Yeah, he's like 6'1", 230. But he has to run like it. You know what I'm saying? Like he's got to. This has always been one of my biggest frustrations, right? I don't like to see players that are big and powerful try to play with finesse. Okay, no.
TJ Duckett.
Yes, right. You're big and strong and powerful. Okay. So run through people first, and then you can start to set up some juke moves and stuff like that. But we need for you to be our short yardage guy, which means that you're going to have to get tough yards, sir. You're going to have to give us more. So, I don't mean to harp on that, but that was very frustrating for me to see this past season, and I'm hoping for sure that he, picks that up. I want to see him in spring running with an attitude. I want to see him running nasty. I want to see him running, fiercely. Okay, yeah. Run like you're trying to knock somebody out. That's what I need to see from him. So
who was that we saw last I don't know if it was spring or fall camp? We saw a clip of somebody just trucking the life out of somebody. Can't remember who it was, but I want to see him run like that. I want to see him put the crown of his helmet in somebody's freaking chest, and running people over viciously, violently. And showing that, hey, I'm a guy. When I come in, you're not gonna want to tackle me. You know what I mean? We need those type of guys, because running back room's another room. Similar to receivers, a lot of potential, but a lot of it's unproven. Even Dylan Sampson's a guy. Can he go be your feature guy for 4 quarters over a 15, 16-game season? Yeah, have to see it. And, of course, Cam Sutton, haven't seen enough of him to really fully buy all of his stock just yet. You expect him to be potentially even better than Jalen Wright, maybe not this season, but before he leaves here, coming in at 6'1", about 230, or 6'2", 230, 4'2" guys, rumored to run. I mean, he can be like an Adrian Peterson type guy before he's done. So, you love the room. Peyton Lewis, another guy everybody's very high on. You love the potential there, but again, there's a lot of question marks on this team in terms of we lost a lot of production last year, a lot of potential in the wings, but we just got to see it before we can really believe it. That's why I want to see everybody,
Yeah, for sure. And so I've also, I've just been looking at some other teams' spring practices and stuff, and I'm just anxious to see how we are going to stack up versus some of these other schools. So far, though, I'm really liking what we got going on, and I can't wait, man. I can't wait to kind of hear how everything plays out over the next couple of weeks. I think that the guys are probably on spring break. The spring break start this weekend. It probably starts tomorrow. So I hope everybody's safe out there. I hope that everyone stays out of trouble and comes back in shape and ready to rock and roll. And I still feel very strongly about this team being a potential national championship contender coming up here. But P, to your point, they have to prove it. But I think that's going to be it for this video. And, we'll probably chat up some more next week. But thank y'all as always for staying to the end. Please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. And we'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.